Is Joe Schoen looking to pull off another blockbuster trade, but this time acquire an offensive weapon? We're going to break that down as Jordan Raanan of ESPN hinted that the Giants are going to be aggressive in trying to add another playmaker to this offense. Before we do, though, I have a challenge for all the Giants Now real ones out there. We have a Commanders channel here at Chat Sports called the Commanders Report. And on a video they did last week, they picked up 2.8 thousand subscribers, a Chat Sports record. And I know the Giants Now real ones are a lot more real than the Commanders Report real ones. And if you bleed Giants blue, I need you to hit that subscribe button. And I know we can get to that number, and it's a lofty number because the analytics tell me that 43.5% of the people that watch these videos are not subscribed. So if everybody that is not subscribed subscribes right now, we'll take down the Washington Commanders Report. You're watching Giants Now by Chat Sports. I am your host, Marshall Green. Let's dive into it. As Jordan Raanan of ESPN, New York Giants insider, said over the weekend that I expect the Giants to add a significant weapon via free agency or a trade this offseason. And look, we've talked about the idea of the Giants going out and adding more firepower to this offense. And it's really a no-brainer for me and a must-do for Joe Schoen. If the Giants return with the same weapons that they had in 2024 for the 2025 season, the results are going to be the same. They have to add another player on the outside that puts stress on opposing defenses. It cannot just be Malik Nabers. You look at the receivers that played for the Giants this past year that are going to be back next year, it's just not enough production and it's not enough skill. Wan'Dale Robinson, I think he's a solid wide receiver 4. If you start the 2025 campaign with Wan'Dale Robinson as your wide receiver 2, you're going to be another bottom 5 offense in the NFL. Theo Johnson was a rookie, and he had the 3rd most catches of any player on the Giants last year, and Jalen Hyatt was an afterthought for the 2024 Giants offense, with just 8 grabs for 62 yards. In theory, you could still bring back Darius Slayton, who is a free agent. I hope they do not. I hope they use that money to go out and fish for a bigger fish. The Giants got to add another productive wide receiver. And I personally would like for them to go out and add a veteran that's been productive and can still produce. Because I think about it like this. Malik Nabers is a guy that still has a lot of room to grow in the National Football League. And I think he could learn a lot from a veteran when it comes to tape study, how to take care of your body, as well as learning and picking up on some nuances when watching film and how to grow your game. So a veteran productive receiver would raise the ceiling for this Giants offense, but I think it would also help out a guy like Malik Nabers. And we know as Giants fans, since Joe Schoen has taken over as the general manager of this football team, he is not afraid to go out and make a big trade. You rewind to 2 off seasons ago. He traded a 3rd-round pick for Darren Waller. I like the aggressiveness. I thought it made sense at the time, but I think it's fair to say the trade did not work out. Then this past offseason, he goes out and makes a big-time trade for Brian Burns, trading a 2nd-round pick. I think it worked out. I think it was worth it, and I would do that trade 10 times over. So I'm not going to be shocked if Joe Schoen goes out and pulls the trigger on another trade this offseason. We're going to go through 4 trade candidates at the wide receiver position. Then I'll show you the top 10 free agents because Raanan did say it could be a trade or a free agency move. And the wide receiver I think that is most likely to change teams this offseason is Deebo Samuel, the playmaker for the San Francisco 49ers. If you've been subscribed to this channel for a while, you've heard me say this before. The 49ers cannot pay everybody. That is when the Brandon Ayuk trade rumors were surrounding the New York Football Giants. And I predicted 2 years before he signed that massive extension and before he almost was traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers that he was going to be traded. And right now, Deebo Samuel is most likely looking for a new contract because he has no guaranteed money left on his current deal. And I doubt that a player at 29 with the production he's had in his career is willing to go out and play and really go through this offseason with the Niners unless he has more guaranteed money added to that deal. It'd make no sense for them to cut him, but it could make some sense for them to trade him. So the question is, should Joe Schoen pursue Samuel and make a blockbuster trade happen? Look, I've always thought Deebo Samuel was one of the most electric playmakers in the NFL. I've also always thought, though, that he was a little bit overrated as a receiver. I don't think he runs the best routes. I don't think he makes the most separation happen on his routes. And I said it a couple years ago, I think Brandon Ayuk is the best receiver that the Niners have. But Deebo Samuel is a different player with the ball in his hands. He's a game changer, and he is definitely more versatile when it comes to him or Ayuk. I don't know, though, if I would go out and make a trade for Deebo, who's pushing 30 years old. You just saw the production continues to decline, and he always misses a couple of games every single year. And the question is, how much will he want on a new deal? Because if you trade for him, it's going to be a similar situation that you went through this past offseason when you made a trade for Brian Burns. You're going to have to go out and give up a premium pick, and then you're going to have to go out and give him probably a solid contract. I would say $25 million is what Deebo would be asking for. $30 million is pretty much the baseline for any receiver that's done anything in this league looking for a new deal. And I'm not so sure I would give up maybe a third-round pick and $25 million for Deebo Samuel. So let's stay on the West Coast, and let's talk about another NFC West team and a receiver that could be on the move, and that is Cooper Kupp, the guy that maybe put together the best receiving season of all time. Why are we talking about trading Cooper Kupp? Because he has a cap hit of $29.7 million if he is on the Rams roster past June 1st of this season. At 31 years old, he didn't really produce the way that he usually did, and he didn't produce really the year before that like he usually does. Injuries are starting to stack up, and Father Time is somewhat tugging on the jersey of Cooper Kupp. It also would save the Rams a lot of money if they did trade him. Reminder, he has a $30 million cap hit. Compared to if you cut him, you save $12.5 million, or trade him, you save $12.5 million. And if you do trade him, you also have a dead cap hit of $17.2 million compared to the $30 million. I think a trade is likely. They save more money if they trade him compared to cutting him, and I would think they would want to get something back in return, maybe a third or a fourth round pick for Kupp. For a team that would be acquiring Cooper Kupp, they wouldn't really owe him all that much money for the 2024 or 2025 season at this point. When you talk about how to understand a picture like this, which is the contract of Cooper Kupp, when you're trading for a player, you take on their base salary and their roster bonuses. Cooper Kupp has a $12.5 million base salary for 2025 and a $7.5 million roster bonus. So the Giants would be on the books for about $20 million if they trade for Kupp. Right now he has a cap hit at 29, and the Rams, they would save about $13 million if they do trade for him. Kupp is going to be a guy that's going to have some Hall of Fame talk surrounding his career. If he doesn't get in, though, it'll be because the injuries held him from reaching his potential. Played in just 9 games in 2022 and just 24 games over the past 2 seasons. Still productive when he plays, but unfortunately, for someone that's a major fan of Kupp dating back to his college days, he's just not on the football field enough. I do still think he can produce. There's talk that Kupp is washed and he's not the same guy, and Puka has taken over clearly as the better player, and some of those things may be true. Maybe Puka Nacua is better than Cooper Kupp at this time, but I wouldn't mind seeing Cooper Kupp at the number 2 spot, dominating the slot for the New York Giants with Malik Nabers on the outside. I think it'd be a better option than 5'8" Wan'Dale Robinson for 98 catches for 600 yards. But you also got to ask yourself, with a guy that's a Super Bowl champion, with a guy that has accomplished a lot in this league, and will be turning 32 this offseason, does a guy that's entering the twilight time of his career want to go play for the New York Giants, who are going to be adding a rookie quarterback and probably won't be sniffing the playoffs anytime soon? I don't know. DK Metcalf is another wide receiver trade candidate this offseason. A guy that, just like Kupp and just like Samuel, we're talking about him as a trade candidate because of the money and his contract. He's entering the last year of his contract right now, and he has a $31 million cap hit, if he remains on the Seahawks for the 2025 season. At 6'4", 235 pounds, he is a specimen out wide and still just 27 years old. And when I was looking at some DK Metcalf stats today, he's close to doing things that Mike Evans did, which is put up 1,000 yards every single season. He's productive, there's no doubt. But the question is, do the Seattle Seahawks, with a guy like Jackson Smith and Jigba, who's going to be wanting big bucks here pretty soon, and them not ruling a compete now, win now team, do you want to pay him $31 million? That's a question that they will have to answer. If they trade him, they save 11 with a dead cap hit of about 21. He's productive. There's no doubt about it. Every year he's giving you 900 yards. There hasn't been a year in his career where he's giving you less than 900 yards. Goes from 967 to 1,048 to 1,100 to 992. He gets in the end zone. He puts up big numbers. He is a force to be reckoned with. He could bend the defense, and I think it'd be a good compliment to Malik Nabers. And the reason that I think he probably does get traded or cut or maybe gets a major extension is because he's really damn good. And he's looking to get paid the big bucks. Players in the NFL are smart. They know their window to maximize and capitalize on their success financially is not a large window. And DK knows now is his time to get the biggest contract of his career. And you got to ask, should the Giants do that, or will the Seahawks look to do that? We've got one more trade candidate to talk about in depth. I got a couple more to give you guys, and then we'll look at the top free agents at the wide receiver position. First, though, I got to tell you about our proud sponsor, GameTime. I know the Giants season is over, but if you want to go watch a Knicks game or you want to go to a concert or a theater event, you're going to get the best seats for the lowest price guaranteed with our proud sponsor, GameTime. GameTime is the ticketing app that specializes in last-minute tickets. Prices actually drop as the events get closer, and it's a guarantee. They're going to give you the lowest price. It's really easy to decide which ticket you want due to the feature of being able to see your seat view inside the app. So if you're deciding between tickets A and tickets B, you could choose the one with the better view. You get to access your tickets from your phone, so it's super easy to get in the stadium. And if you flake out and you don't want to go last minute, it's easy to resell your ticket. So download the app, create an account, and use our promo code CHATSPORTS. That's CHATSPORTS, and you're going to get $20 off your first purchase where terms do apply. Use that all-in pricing feature, use that Game Time Picks feature, and lock yourself in. The best seats for the lowest price guaranteed. All of that information will be clickable down in the comments and description of today's show. Another trade target I want to talk about is Garrett Wilson. There's been a lot of talk of the New York Jets potentially moving on from Garrett Wilson this offseason. We've done a video on the idea of the Giants trading for him, and I think it is still a possibility that he gets moved. Ian Rappaport said a couple of weeks ago, can Wilson coexist with Rodgers, or is a better option for the New York Jets to trade Garrett Wilson? I think it's ass backwards to trade a 24-year-old wide receiver that is 3 years in the NFL. He's put up over 1,000 yards to accommodate a old, veteran, washed-up quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. But the Jets are going to jet, and really with the Giants being horrible in the last 8 years, I don't have much room to poke fun at. But it would be pretty funny if they traded Garrett Wilson to make Aaron Rodgers happy. Wilson is great. Like, he is having one of the better starts of any wide receiver in NFL history. 83 catches, 1,100 yards, and 4 touchdowns his rookie year. Then he answers that with 95 grabs, 1,000 more yards, and 3 more touchdowns. Then 101 more catches, 1,100 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Garrett Wilson, in my opinion, is one of the most underrated receivers in the National Football League. And if you could have an offense with Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders or maybe a veteran quarterback like Russell Wilson or Sam Darnold, and you could add Garrett Wilson and you have Malik Nabers, that's pretty damn good, man. That might be the best 1-2 duo at the wide receiver position in the National Football League. One guy entering his second year and another that's 24 years old. And of all the guys mentioned that we talked about in today's show, Wilson is the one guy that I would be most excited to go out and trade for. He would be the one that I would most likely pull the trigger on. But it's not going to be cheap. And you're going to have to motivate the Jets to move on from him. I think they may want a first-round pick. I'm not giving you pick number 3. The best I could do is the second pick in the second round, pick 34. Because I'm also going to have to give Garrett Wilson a major contract extension. I'm going to have to give him 5 years and $120 million. He is going to command a lot of money because he's damn good, and that's what damn good wide receivers do. So maybe pick 34 is enough, and let's say the Jets would do that deal. Would you, if you were Joe Schoen? If you sat in the seat of the Giants general manager and they called you up and said, all right, we'll do it. Give us the second pick of the second round, and we'll give you Garrett Wilson. Type A for accept, type D for decline. And while I say all the things I just said, and I stand 10 toes on that, I would love to add Garrett Wilson. I would rather just sign T. Higgins than have to pay Garrett Wilson T. Higgins money maybe in a year and give up a second-round pick. Like, would I rather have T. Higgins and the 34th best player in the draft, or would I rather just have Garrett Wilson? The Giants have multiple holes to fill. They have needs across all 22 positions, including special teams. I don't love the idea of giving up premium draft capital to go out and get a player in his prime when you really don't need a player in his prime at that position because you're not competing for a Super Bowl. They need a legit receiver. So just go out and get T. Higgins. Just go out and get Chris Godwin. There's guys out there that you can sign with the money that you have in free agency. Yes, Amari Cooper didn't live up to the hype with the Bills. I wouldn't mind seeing him in Giants blue. Stephon Diggs. Look, if there's any two people in the world I would listen about Stephon Diggs being a good fit on a team, Brian Dable and Joe Shane are at the top of that list. I don't know about DeAndre Hopkins. Marquise Brown, they don't really need him. I don't hate the idea of a veteran slot receiver like Keenan Allen that could be a real safety valve for a guy like Ward or Sanders. Deontay Johnson seems like a shithead. I'm not interested in him. And Mike Williams, I think you could do better. But would I rather have any of those 4 wide receivers we mentioned and having to give up a pick for him, or would I rather just keep all my draft picks and sign a guy like T. Higgins or sign a guy like Chris Godwin? In summary, it comes down to this for me. If you are determined to go make a splash move at the receiver position and add another weapon to this team like Jordan Raanan talked about, just go sign T. Higgins. He's an elite receiver. He is still in his prime, and you don't have to give up draft picks to do it. You get to use the cap space that you have. That's just what I would do. I would even go out and sign a guy like Chris Godwin, who's a veteran, who's a Super Bowl champion, who could still produce, and he could be a big brother and a mentor to a guy like Malik Nabers. That's just me. I don't know. We could chop it up at the comment section if you guys disagree. I'm not saying any of the 4 guys wouldn't help the Giants. They need all the help they can get. But I think it's strategic, more strategic, to keep the picks and just go out and sign somebody. Give me a follow on social media at @MarshallGreen_ on both platforms.